Hello there, it's Tuesday, September 13th. I hope everyone's doing really well. Quick health update, then I've got some thoughts that have been swimming in my head that I wanted to share. On the CAA front, nothing new right now, but I've not been feeling well for a good few weeks because of some digestive problems that are a little mysterious. I'm not eating a lot. I just feel queasy all the time and some other things, and I'm getting care from a GI specialist, and I'm gonna assume it's all gonna get figured out and that I can get back to baseline. That's part of why I have not uploaded anything in a while, but fingers crossed that that's over in a couple weeks. So I had a morning last week where I woke up with this memory from middle school of something I hadn't thought of in a long time, and that made me think a lot as I was laying there. And I had this feeling like this was the kind of thing I wanted to talk about in a video, because a big part of why I am doing this, as I mentioned in my first upload, is to give friends and family in the future an idea of kind of who I am. And this whole piece of me that came up, this area that's super critical to who I am, has to be a part of that. And it's going to be imperfect. And that's how it is, because I'm imperfect. I know none of you are, so thanks for your forgiveness in advance. All right, let me try to be quick about this, like, backstory. Anyone who knows me knows I am what they now call a social justice warrior. I always have been. The term is so weird, like it was kind of cool, and it first came out on the internet and then it got weird and whatever, but it's true. That would be an accurate description. I worked for my first political campaign when I was 14 and been to many demonstrations for various causes, pro-choice, anti-war, absolutely, Black Lives Matter, anti-racism, women's rights, and LGBTQ plus advocacy, all the way. It's where I live. Now, this memory I had made me think about, like, why that is part of who I am, because there's a lot of really good people who don't end up on that path. So what happened, right? And there's a lot to that. There's no simple answer. I'm not going to be able to tell you in a 15-minute video, but there are two things that were really with me. And the first is, okay, so obviously, the white liberal ally talking about some of my best friends are Black, right? Highly problematic. But let's talk about when you're a kid and when you are being sort of formed as a human and your values are being formed, and having friends who are unlike you and racially, ethnically, or any other sense does not automatically mean that you have it all together and you know what's going on. But when you're a kid and you have relationships with people, that is where everything is rooted. And God bless my mother, first of all, who was one of the, thank you, mamas, second wave feminists who helped bring about the women's rights movement of the 70s, I grew up in that, and along with that came her commitment to fighting racial injustice and gay rights, as we called them back then. All of that. So I grew up in that, right? And along with that, it wasn't performative in the sense that we weren't just told things. We were in a way that was untrue of almost anyone else of my complexion where I grew up, never shielded from human beings or any particular environments or neighborhoods. And we never had that slight discomfort or overt discomfort that I know a lot of my peers had who were white around having other kids who were Black, Hispanic, or any other ethnicity over at the house or overnight or going to their house in the city or taking a city bus. All of that was absolutely not a big deal at all. It was neutral. It was all good. Great. You've got friends, whoever they are, we embrace them. And I am extraordinarily grateful that it wasn't just talk in my house. Anyway, one relationship in particular from my childhood, my best friend, starting in 7th grade. Her name, I'm going to just call her S, because there's a lot there that is private, and even the pieces I'm going to tell you, I just think that that's more respectful. I saw S for the first time, first or second day of 7th grade art class across the room. She was what she called at the time mixed race. She had been adopted by a white family at age 2. So that was a lot. And her parents had just been divorced. She moved to Arundecoit from another town. So yes, I'm from the suburb of Arundecoit, New York. She had glasses, a short natural, and just like all of the energy in the world. She was just beaming, this bright, light, funny person, no filter. And I don't even remember the details. We were best friends instantly. We spent every day together. We watched Miami Vice. We watched all the breakdance movies. We listened to the Fat Boys. Our favorites were Prince, Madonna, and Michael Jackson. And Cyndi Lauper and a million others, right? On our cassette decks. Anyway, this was a human being who had the most incredible spirit, brilliance, was an incredible writer, a poet, a voracious reader, a dancer, an incredible performer. And she went on and had a very successful theater career. And I was in her wedding in Virginia, and she was on Broadway. And I mean, just one of the most incredible people. And in the middle of all of this, she had been through an unbelievable trauma at the hands partly of her adoptive father, who was completely out of the picture when I met her, fortunately, but beyond anything, right? And at the time, I didn't see the extent to which the trauma she experienced was racialized, the fact that she didn't even really understand her own ethnic identity, that her mother never learned how to take care of her hair. I mean, these are, right, that's a little one, but is it? It's not really. And she always had this incredible spirit and was always fighting, but she had mental health issues back then that led to some extreme upheaval as an adult, to the extent that I now don't know where she is or if she is still living. And I saw her a few years ago, and I was extraordinarily concerned and knew at that point that I wouldn't know how to get a hold of her again. And it is one of the biggest heartbreaks of my life. So that there is no way that you can have a relationship like that, someone I love deeply, and watch what happened to them up close, and be one of their, if not their primary confidant at that age when they were dealing with so much, and not feel a really strong pull and need and a sort of burning desire to try to make things better. All right, so I'm not going to keep doing that. Happier story, for the most part. One thing that we experienced together, S and I. She and her mom and her older sister belonged to a church in downtown Rochester, and because I was only about 13, I do not remember where it was. We were getting driven by our parents, and I have no idea which church now. They had a bar in the basement called Bar None, and the idea was that this was a place that did not serve alcohol, so that adults who were in recovery would have a nightclub to hang out at where they could dance and socialize and have the regular nightclub or bar experience, except no alcohol. And because of that, they did allow us to go there as well, which probably harshed the vibe of the adults, but we didn't really care at the time and had a phenomenal night out when we would go. So we were downtown Rochester, and at one point, I think we were outside in the parking lot, and there were these 3 kids there, and they lived in the neighborhood, and they're like, come on, we're saying, you know, come join us. And we all become friends quickly. They're all Latino. There was Jimmy, who lived with a foster father. There was, oh boy, Ricky, who I remember had a bicycle and sort of like this blondish sort of a big fro and was really funny. And then there was Carlos, and he lived closest by. So we went to Carlos's house at one point. I met his mom, and they were really poor in a way that I had not seen up close in my life before. And it's an interesting moment where you're kind of unfazed because this is your friend, but you're kind of like really, you know, I have a vivid, like, visual memory of it because it was striking to me as it's something that was so different than anything I had seen. They had this tiny little apartment on the ground level, with a tiny kitchenette and a couch that somebody slept on, and I think there was a bed and maybe a tiny bedroom, and then a bunch of plastic because it was chilly, it was cold, and they had plastic in a doorway so that they weren't paying for heat for the other part of the house, and that was storage and so forth, and I'm not sure what. And they did not have a phone, and these were just things that I just was naive to, and they were just these really good, funny kids. Jimmy was my first boyfriend. which entailed occasional phone calls, hanging out in Highland Park maybe, and I think we held hands once. But, you know, these were our buddies, and we didn't end up keeping in touch for more than maybe a year and a half. I don't know what happened to Jimmy. He had a foster father who was a single guy, and I met him once when they, I don't remember why, and was worried. Something seemed weird there. And it was just harder in those days to keep touch with people. But, you know, most white suburban kids do not know anything about poor kids who live in the city, except what white people tell them or what they saw on TV, which is never good. Sometimes I think it's better now the way things are portrayed, because we have increasing representation in entertainment and TV and news, but boy, that was not true for a very long time, and I know it's still not all the way there. So this is just two reasons, two little tiny personal examples of why it was just an inevitable outcome for me that these were things that were going to be priorities. There's so much to say, and I'm not going to do it justice right now. So those are stories I'm just going to leave there. I think really mostly for my grandchildren, or if they exist, or other relatives in the future. But I just I really cherish, I am so grateful for those people. I don't know how S is. I hope that she's okay. I don't know how Jimmy and Ricky and Carlos are. I hope that they made it all the way through and are doing really well. Yeah, just gonna send that out, and I hope all of you are doing well. I would love to get some feedback on this one. Tell me what you like, how you might maybe relate or anything, or not. All good. But it's been nice to talk to you. All right, until next time, take care.